Hello and welcome to the hashtag 153 quid bike video 4. Today I'm going to be taking that bad boy and putting that kit on it. This is what we're here for, taking a frame and turning it into a bike. Now, for background guys, I'm completely self-taught. I started cycling about 4 years ago and I'm frankly too tight to pay for a mechanic. Through watching a series of YouTube videos, of which you may or may not be aware from a very famous YouTube content provider, I learned how to do everything on a bike. From replacing the brakes, which was the first thing I ever did, to eventually building, stripping and putting together all my own bikes, which is what I do now. Today, I'm not going to labour the technical details guys. There are far better qualified people out there who will take you through all of that in a minute detail to give you that in-depth knowledge that you're going to need to go forwards. What I am going to do is hopefully show you how easy it is. Me, a social cyclist, I'm going to put this together quickly and easily after just a few run-throughs. So here, before we start, I've laid out the kit I'm going to use. The most important things you can see there are the 4, 5 and 6mm Allen keys and a dental pick. That is going to get me through 90% of what we're doing today. To business then. Please excuse the love handles. What I'm doing now is just greasing gently the inside of the collar for the shifters. You can see there, tiny little blob of grease on my finger, and then I'm going to roll around the inside of the collar. And this is hopefully just going to stop any galvanic reaction over time, which might stick my shifters to the handlebars. Always handy to have a little bit of just generic grease on hand when you're doing this, and you don't need a lot of it. You're obviously trading off a little bit of protection against corrosion with a little bit less grip. Now you can see there, just quickly using the Allen keys to put these in place tentatively. I'm not tightening them up to full spec. Just disappeared off camera there to go and get a spirit level. What's the problem with that? That's right, the bike's not straight. So I very quickly give up on that idea. So with doing the shifters, it's quite key to have them in at least sort of the right position when you're starting here, because what I'm going to do now is make sure that my cables are all the right length. Now, because I'm doing this on a YouTube video, I did pre-measure them and I did pre-cut them, but you'll see as I'm going along here the importance of having everything all in the right place and all at the right length. The first time I did this, I cut my cables too short. You're obviously having this trade-off again between having the nicest, tidiest cables in the peloton and actually having the ability to turn your handlebars through the full range of motion. Now, you might think that you don't need to turn your handlebars through the full range of motion. However, when you're getting a bike in and out at the back of your car or moving it between races, anything like that, you're going to want to be able to turn your wheel on its side so that you can get it in the back of a car, taking up less space. Also, the last thing you want to do is have to make a technical bit of manoeuvring and all of a sudden discover you haven't got that range and that you're pulling on your brakes or switching up your gears when you don't mean to. Going along here, you can see I'm just having a little fiddle with the shifter. You've got a little plastic cover on the side of it, quite useful again. The dental pick tool that I'll be using in a second is one of the key bits of kit in my arsenal, believe it or not. I think it cost me $4.99 off eBay, and it's useful for a multitude of fiddly little tasks. This is me having a little bit of trouble with the gear cables. If for whatever reason they wind a little tighter and are a little more springy than brake cables, they always spring away in my hands when I'm unwrapping them like this. And I'm going to go through the same thing that I did with the shifter hoods. Just a tiny little bit of grease on my fingers, and then I'm going to run it down the length of the cable. Because hopefully I'm going to put that in that shifter, put it through those cables, and then I'm not going to see it again for another 12 months. Because it's going to sit in there, it's going to do its job, and unless there's any snags or problems, I'm not going to want to fiddle with it too much. Now, you can see me here just having a little bit of drama, popping it through. The rubber hoods that you get on these Shimano shifters are a real pain in the bum to work with. If you take them completely off, you will struggle to get them back on. So I like to roll them back a little bit, but that does mean you have to get fiddly in there with your hands when you're trying to run the cables through. I seem to have done it with some success there. Again, excuse the love handles. And I'm just trying to thread it now through the little holes. This is all available in other videos, guys. I'm not going to take you through the detail of how you thread a shifter and get it into my cables. Now, you probably wouldn't notice at the speed I'm playing this, but what I've actually done here, you can see the slightly confused look on my face, is I threaded the gear cable into the brake hole and the brake hole into the gear cable hole. and I'm just messing around now trying to get that mixed up. But there we are, some success. Look at my happy little face, and I've managed to get the gear cable into the gear outer, and I'm now just making sure it all runs nicely. You can see there, that's me checking whether I've got the clearance underneath my bottom bracket to run it, and I don't. I'm going to have to take it off the stand. For that, while you watch me mess about here with the brake cable, that stand, I don't normally work on a stand, but I thought I'd be a little bit pro since I was doing a video, so I bought this one off Wiggle. It wasn't expensive, I think that one only cost 80 quid, and the benefit of that one, using it on a carbon frame, is that it's not clamping by the top tube or the seat tube. The difficulty is where you have externally routed cables, as it is for the bottom ones on this, you can't actually access it because it's gripping by the bottom bracket housing. What I'm doing here is just feeding the brake cable through the front of it. You can see, again, I'm just checking that I've got all the right clearances, that everything's fed in the right way. What I'm probably struggling with now is actually getting the cable through into the internal routing. You might see my sad little face for a second. This can be quite fiddly, guys. Just make sure, one drama I had was I still had a little bit of grease on my hands from greasing the cables. I should have probably just taken a second and dried those off. I think I take a little break in a second here to show you some of the finer detail. Yes, I do. What you can see here is me using the dental pick just to catch the cable and actually tug it out of the frame. So that was that. All the drama you hear about internal cable routing solved there with a dental pick. Nice and easy. Now I've moved on to the right hand shifter here. You can see me just there fitting through the gear cables. You can see I have pre-cut these. It was to make it easier on the video, but I'm still, as I'm fitting it, going to be checking and measuring and making sure that I'm putting them in the right place. I believe firmly in measure twice, cut once. I've probably measured 3 or 4 times on this, and as I'm fitting, I'm still going to be checking. There's nothing worse than getting this wrong, especially once you've threaded the inners through and discovering you've cut a cable a little bit too short. Now I'll take a cut in a second to show you a little trick that I used here to get the cable around the bottom bracket. You see me here just feeding it into the external frame router, which will then go down to the bottom bracket. What I used here was a little bit of the interior liner from a high-end Jaguar set of cables, which comes with a 2-part outer. You can see there just again checking the frame. Going down now, there we are. This plastic tube that looks like a straw you see sticking through the bottom bracket is a cut piece of inner from a high-end Jaguar. I think it's called Elite SL or something like that. And what's he done? He's put the bike upside down. Now, the reason I've done that, guys, as I explained earlier on, is just the frame didn't allow me, the frame stand didn't allow me access to the bottom bracket, and I'm now just threading through and cutting that Jaguar inner to fit. Now I'm going to leave a little bit of it in place. I could have pulled it through and just left the cable bare, but actually on this frame that would have left the inner rubbing against the frame, and this is going to offer a little bit of protection. I remember being very, very surprised on a friend's Venge that all it had was a little rubber grommet that stopped you rubbing the inners against the frame, and hers had actually worn away and it started to cut into the frame. That's on 10 grand's worth of bike, not on 153 quid's worth. So you can see me here, I'm just pulling it through and I'm putting it on the front mech, but I'm making sure I've just got it to just about the right length. It doesn't need to be long. What I've got in my hand just now is a really useful tool from Park Tool, which is a 4, 5 and 6mm Allen key all in one thing. Now it is a little bit difficult to use in tight spaces, which is why I've also got those P-handled ones, but that there was just the tool for the time. Now, as you can see, that's me now setting up the rear mech. We're really rattling through this, guys, but this is, I swear, done in real time. There's probably only been a couple of minutes for me to do some admin in the cuts that you've seen. I'm now wiring up the rear mech. Now, I'm not putting these in or worrying at this point during the fit about getting it indexed. All I want is to get the cables in, pinned at just about sort of the right sort of time, so that I can see that I've got enough cable, that the cable's routed correctly, and knowing roughly where everything's going to be. In just a second, I'll get my cutters out and I'll cut all these cables to what I call working length.
When these cables come, they're usually about 2 meters long, maybe 1.5 meters depending on the brand that you get, and there is no need for that sort of length on a bike. I don't know what frame size these are designed for, or if just some frames have got crazy routing options that need the length. But for me, you can see here, I'm just leaving a good 6 inches to 7 inches there of excess cable, but they are cut to working length. And here's the close-ups. Everything's in, everything's been placed, and it's all been cut to working length. With the mechs and brakes wired up then, I'm now going to concentrate on the chain. The next 2 clips are going to show you the shortest possible length and the longest possible length of chain you're going to need. It's really important to make sure, guys, that your chain will manage both of these extremes. People say, well, you don't cross chain, so you don't really need it to. The time you will cross chain is a time when you're stressed, when you're tired, when you're pedaling hard, and then you don't want to change up, realise you don't have the length in your chain, and all of a sudden you've fired your rear mech into your back wheel, you've locked up your back wheel, you're going arse over tit, all because you didn't bother to set your chain up correctly. Using a quick link, you can quite easily modify the length of a chain.
Okay guys, so here we are. We've taken it from first fitting those shifters to actually wiring up the brakes and the mechs. Now when I play back all the spannering, I'm probably going to do so at ×2 speed for your sake. However, 40 minutes start to finish, I reckon I was spannering on this. If you were to go down to an LBS and ask them for a quote to fit a full group set, I reckon their hourly rate based on that 40 minutes would work out pretty handsome. So we've saved ourselves an absolute fortune. We've got the satisfaction of knowing we did the work ourselves. And importantly, with nobody else to blame when we break it and we go over the handlebars. Now, the bike's now ready for its first test drive. I've left all the cables cut a little bit shorter than I had before so that they're not trailing, but I've left plenty of wiggle room in those cables just in case I need to do some modifications after the test ride. Importantly as well, I haven't yet fit the handlebar tape, and the reason for that is I might need access to these shifters, might need to just tweak these cables, might even, worst case scenario, end up refitting one of the wires if I've wired it up wrong. And if I have to take the handlebar tape on and off to do that, I'll end up ruining it and it'll look really tatty when I've done the fit and refit. You can get away with stripping it off a couple of times if you have to do maintenance, but we want this looking pretty pristine. So guys, thank you very much for bearing with me. This is the end of video 4, and I reckon we've probably got 1 or 2 left to go for our hashtag 153 quid bike challenge. Guys who've been with me for the start, thank you very much for the support. Remember now, this is the first video that's going straight onto YouTube rather than getting the initial views on Facebook. So please engage on the the YouTube channel and leave likes and comments and let me know what you think about the hashtag 153 quid bike challenge. I'm on holiday now for a couple of weeks, so it'll be a little while until we actually do the test ride video. But guys, I'm really looking forward to getting out there and putting the pedals down on this thing. I hope you're all looking forward to seeing the updates. Thanks for sticking with me, and I'll see you all again soon. Stay safe.